Good morning, London. This is Jesús Llamazares from Consalia, and we have here Will as well, as always, co-host.
Hi,
How are you doing?
Jesús. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we are now having 21, 22 Celsius. We have a very cloudy environment here in London, and this sales frequency, it's gonna be quite interesting because yeah, we decided to make things a little bit more complicated. So we changed some of the topics we were going to be talking today. Still on leadership, still on grow from within, but we were planning to talk about, are we training the leaders we need or just hoping to hide them later, Will? But maybe there is some other things we talk.
I think we'll certainly cover this topic.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to start by saying there's been a fairly interesting report that's just been published called the State of Sales Challenges in Sales Leadership 2025 report. And this has been published by Lincoln West and the National Sales Conference. I'm sure many of our audience would be interested in seeing what some of the insights have been from that report. Obviously, it does touch upon sales leadership, but there are other factors as well. So yeah, this report's just been published. It's researched from about just shy of 300 UK-based sales leaders spanning all sorts of different industries and business sizes, investigating the sort of challenges and priorities facing sales leadership going into 2025. So the data was collected in the back end of 2024 with survey data, qualitative interviews, and so on. And there were four sort of key focuses, which I think we should explore, Jesús. So I might be putting you on the spot a little bit, but
No worries.
let's. And also, anyone listening in, please do opinionate as well. So the four main areas that this report looked into was around C-suite and boardroom priorities, some wider sales leadership challenges, the impact on AI and sales, which I know we've been discussing in the a few of our episodes, and some sales enablement as well. So there's quite a bit to unpack, and I
Yeah.
just thought I would share first what the highest priorities for sales executives were from this report, and I would just like to get your feedback from it, whether you agree, you're surprised with anything, Jesús. But the first one was aligning sales objectives with business goals. The second, maintaining accurate value propositions and go-to-market strategies. The fourth, future-proofing revenue strategies. And the fifth one, balancing short-term objectives, balancing short-term targets with long-term objectives.
Okay. Thank you very much, Will. Easy one, but I think we could start to speak. We could dedicate a sales frequency just with each of them,
I think
right?
so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have any preference, or I should make the preference, or what is your preference to talk about? Because it's yeah.
I think, I mean, for me, I when I saw these, none of them really came too much as a surprise, and actually, some of these points echo some of the conversations we've been having internally. If, for instance, if I take the last point, balancing short-term targets with long-term objectives, you know, we understand the context in terms of the world in which we're operating in, and that requirement to get revenue in, get deals over the line, but ensuring that at the cost, at what cost, and making sure that the pressures that we put on salespeople to deliver targets in the short term doesn't actually have negative implications for those longer term sort of relationships and things like that that you want to build with clients over time. You know, these things, you know, we've certainly been speaking about internally.
Yeah.
What do you think
And
has this?
no, that's completely true, right? Because on one side we have, imagine, right? So sales professionals that just came to a new role or a new company, or right, and they have to, very quickly get into the culture, get trained, many times focus on pros, sometimes not focus on the sales culture and the sales processes and the mindsets and the values. Um, all the type of scenarios is where maybe the professional has been for a number of, well, months or few years, but still needs to report year by year and improving, right? So at the end, I think there are different companies that some companies look into the short term, they don't look into long term, so they want just short term outcomes. Sometimes driven by things that even the sales professional don't think about it, like the company is thinking about just to get a good, revenue increase and margins, just because they want to get public through an APO. That maybe they want to be sold. I mean, they want to sell the company to someone else. So, but all these things that are at the strategy level, at the C level, sometimes are not going down to all the lines, right? Um, so
Mm.
so the short term with the long term sometimes is, it's not is disaligned, is that sometimes there is not a full knowledge from the sales professionals about the long term and the strategy. So sometimes they, of course, the target and the short term is always on their agenda. I need to hit my target. I need to, retention, or I mean, there are targets, there are numeric targets, right? But the long term strategy and the long term vision sometimes is not properly communicated for various reasons, right? There might be some confidential stuff, or there might be, this kind of misalignment creates sometimes anxiety in sales professionals, because it's like, okay, I know I have to do this for the next quarter, but why? What is behind that? What is the long-term discussion that is happening here? I mean, the right company? Is the company going to be sold? Are going to be merging? Is that the numbers are not good? So there are some. I mean, communication is key, and I believe that depending on the industry and depending on the company, some ones do very well, some ones do not as well, and they have room for improvement. So I believe this is not just a misalignment. Sometimes it's a communication element, right? It's not a misalignment, but there's a communication element and knowledge.
Yeah, and I think what was also interesting from the report was the different sort of pressure points that companies of various different sizes also face. You know, I think for larger companies, so those with over 100 million in terms of revenue, they place more, well, from the output of the research, they place more important on future proofing and alignment. Mid-sized firms more around culture and value framework. These are the pressure points. Smaller firms, I think, face all of the all of the challenges that we've mentioned, as well. But what you said around, the sort of the alignment and leadership qualities is something that has really been highlighted, and perhaps we could go into more detail there. One of the most challenging areas that was picked up on was around recruitment and retention
Mhm.
on
Yeah.
leadership. So this is a nice segue back to the topic of today's discussion. And I think, it's one of the sort of standout stats from the report.
Yeah.
Developing leadership skills within, and just
That's a big thing, right? I mean, if you think about it, we did a small analysis 2 or 3 months ago about the average time that people is moving from one role to another role, or from one company to another company. and we did an industry analysis as well. But we found out that, I mean, the average time is like 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe three. But it's like, so that's very quick, right? So in 2 years, people has this mentality: I need to be successful. I need to be changing to a new role, or if not, I go to another company in 2 years' time, right? Particularly in the UK market, I should say. Of course, I'm a Spaniard and I know other markets, how they operate. Spain, Germany. I've worked in other markets as well, but UK is quite of this mentality, and and by that, then retention is very complicated, right? So because people has the mentality of thinking about moving in 2 years if he doesn't get the outcome, or even if he gets the outcomes or the results, right? So there is a big play on culture, on retention. It's beyond the incentives, it's beyond the economic, the money, right? It's beyond all the things. So I do believe this is one of the major problems, because many times when a professional goes out of your company, well, might be going to the competitor, right? So we've been seeing recently some software as a service companies working in the UK. Yesterday, I was talking to a friend that worked in one of the major software as a service companies, and he recognized that that some sales professionals are moving out of the company because they were not hitting the targets, but not just themselves, but the company, right? Because maybe they don't have the right strategy. While in the last 5, 6, 7 years, they were just growing 2 digits every year. So things are changing very fast, and professionals have this mentality to move quickly. So when you are a leader, uh, the most important thing is people. Technology, you can sort it out if you have money, you have time. Processes, you can sort it out. You can sort everything. But people, and managing people and retaining people and motivating people is the most difficult task, I think, for a leader. I don't mind if it's sales or if it's operations or it's whatever. So, I mean, it's super important in sales, because the human element, the relationship between the buyer and the seller is so strong. People importance is even better, it's even higher, right? So yeah, this is one of the major challenges that the leaders have. I had the pleasure to attend one of the national sales conferences a couple of weeks ago. Great sessions on AI they had, and we had a lady coming from a company that, um, her main objective is to help companies to define and design incentives in a wide perspective, right? So it's not just the economic ones, but the non-tangible ones, like badges, like recognitions, like all many other things. And it's so important that we take care of all these things together, because of course there is a communication element, as we discussed. There is a strategy if the full company is going well or not, but then the person is going to be thinking on the company, but thinking as well on himself or herself, right? On how everything affects, and if in this kind of a process that they have in their head, if in 2 years' time they do the question, I'm okay in this company, I have still room to grow, I have a good education path, am I relevant, I'm recognized. All these things are things that are all the time in sales professionals' head, no matter if they hit the target or not. And I think the leaders have to understand, appreciate, and work quite hard on to get a cohesive team, and continually having this emotional intelligence that is required to really face these challenges well. I don't
Yeah.
know if you think.
Yeah, and I think I was just, as you were speaking, I think what I go back to this balancing short-term targets with long-term objectives, and I think the pressures that sales leaders need to to hit performance targets, and sort of unlock the potential of their teams, to get the short-term wins, but sort of the question, at what cost? At what cost is that to your organization, and for team morale as well? I think the other thing you mentioned, Jesus, which is really important, which is around understanding, aligning strategic values with expectations from your team, and ensuring that those can be delivered consistently is a really important factor. And that feeds into sort of developing sales career paths as well. So not just looking at it from a leadership lens, but from those who might be frontline sales managers, what's the next step for them as well? Where does their career head, and can they develop into future leaders from within these organizations to create, a culture that is really that one has a kind of longer term vision. I think for us, we quite often see, certainly through our engagements, that top performing salespeople get promoted into leadership positions, and yet they quickly realise that to be a leader requires a completely different skills from being excellent at sales as an individual contributor, if you know what I mean.
I think that you touch a very important topic as well on performance versus potential, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we think about it, if we think about us as leaders, if you have people that have the potential, if they don't perform, it's not entirely on them. It's also on you. It's also on the company. It's also on the leader, right? So we need to not just identify the potential, but we need to put everything that has to happen for the person to develop this potential and get to the performance you think this person is able to do. And sometimes we hire or we promote people with a lot of potential, but we don't. Um, we don't build all the necessary tools and tool set to make them flourish and then make them perform. So sometimes in tough times, and now it's like it's a change, it's a constant change world, right? So everyone is thinking about the next quarter. Financial teams are asking what is the next quarter, because maybe they can even forecast beyond that point, and so everyone is focused on performance. But if you're not focused on performance from the potential, is where probably is not long-term sustainable, right? And this is not easy because, of course, the C levels are all pressured by numbers and outcomes. And sometimes it's tough to make an investment in potential that is not performing now, but you need to do the investment not just on this, but also on, as I say, on all the tool sets that you need to provide to the person to really make it happen, right? So we've seen this sometimes, Will.
Yeah, we do, and providing that framework to enable people to flourish is so crucial. To exactly what you said, to unlock the potential, not just you as a leader, but also for your team as well. And we know that, I mean, we've seen it through our own data, that the organizations that invest in their leadership development end up staying. They end up staying within their organizations, and I think that's a really positive signal, because if you have those that are being developed, are happy in the roles, that cascades to the culture of the company. So it's a really important, it's a really important factor to address.
Definitely Will.
So I just wanted to come back to the report again, and so as it highlighted in the report, one of the main challenges was recruiting and retaining top quality salespeople.
Yeah.
And so for us, I think our view is, well, you've got to invest in them. You've got to give them that framework. You've got to give them the tools in which to flourish. And if you do that, they will stay and they'll develop top quality people.
Yeah, yeah. Recruiting from outside of the company, it's always an investment. There is also a risk, right? Um, sometimes, sometimes you recruit from outside because you're looking for new skills, because you're looking to disrupt, or you're looking to try to uh, create a catalyst within the organization for certain things. Um, or maybe you don't have the skills inside, as I say, and then you're looking for the skills outside, new business or new business model, or right, or you are merging or demerging. So you need different profiles at different times. Even if you think about the CEO of a company, or the right person for a CEO position depends on the moment the company is in, right? So maybe if you think about a meet, I mean, let's say, I don't know, 50 million, 100 million. So you need a type of CEO. When this is a 2 billion, 3 billion, it's a different type of CEO, different type of organization. So it's not so even in the same position, for instance, as a CEO or chief sales. I mean, what I'm saying CEO, but it could be a head of sales, etc. It's not the same that you are head of sales in a startup, head of sales in a SME or a SOHO, or a head of sales in a large company, right? The kind of skills, the kind of agility, the kind of culture is completely different. So you need to understand where you are with in terms of the company, all the team that is around you, the culture, and then your priorities and the way you develop the team is going to be different. So if we think about a startup, yeah, so you're head of sales in a startup, I don't know, 10 people, you maybe have 2, 3 million. I mean, there is full flexibility to any training or any development plan, right? Um, of course, not at whatever cost. But if you go to one of the big ones, big companies, maybe it's more rigid. Everything has to be certified, has to be through different special channels. Maybe in order to make this available to the employees, it's like a 6 months process or a 12 months process. So you need to navigate these different circumstances. And sometimes we find companies, large companies, where they promote leaders to behave and work like entrepreneurs inside their organizations, because they see that the legacy is to go very slow, very bureaucratic, long cycles, and they want to do something different, quicker, in a different way, because a special part of the market they are in requires more agility and a different perspective to really compete, right? So I believe this is going to be more frequent.
Mhm.
Again, you know that we are quite investigating a lot the AI avenues, but AI is going to be making small companies, I'm talking about 5, 10 employees, start to compete with very large, huge companies very quickly,
Mm.
which before was not able to, right?
And it's interesting you mention AI. Do you okay? I'm going to put you on the spot, Jesus. So the report also looks into the impacts of AI in sales, and looks at the current adoption. So, of the people surveyed, so just shy of 300, what percentage of firms currently use sales-specific AI tools, do you think?
Well, maybe I've seen some data, less than 50%.
Yeah, so 35% is, and for me, when I saw that figure, you know, I was surprised that it's actually, yeah, it's just a bit over a third. Um, and for me, I'm surprised that not more organizations are adopting AI. Um, yeah, what do you think?
Well, I think we've seen several reports as well, right? From not just from the National Sales Conference, which is fantastic, but also from some industry analysts. And it looks like 95, 99%, depending on the report, of the C levels say that AI is in their top three priorities, but less
Yeah.
than 50% are really doing something. And I would add to this, probably less than 10% are having an ROI on what they are doing now, right? So this is growing very fast. but there is, as I think, it's growing very fast, and there are not predefined routes of what to do and how to maximize the return. People is Some people is like waiting, some other people is exploring and failing, and some people are exploring and making success.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I believe the culture, the size of the company, the industry makes a big role in the AI adoption. It's difficult, but I just spoke today with a software as a service CEO that works in hospitality with most of the hotel resorts worldwide. They have an app, and they said, on AI, we are very, very, let's say, followers. So they are not leading the market. They are not leading the position, because in hospitality, for instance, the problem they're having is more legacy, right? It's like they need it. He explained that we need to have a thermic printing machine in the kitchen of the hotels, which it doesn't exist, to communicate with the. So they look into the AI like, yes, they use internally, but they are not leading the move. But in other industries, we are looking into AI like people is really getting into these AI new tools. And of course, there are a lot. There are a lot of avenues. There are the agents, the workflows, the agentic workflow, etc. But yeah, this is something that is being defined now. So by experimenting and doing, trials, the first movers are starting to understand better the possibilities of the future and
Absolutely.
position themselves in the right position to win the race, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I see it.
So, and I'm sure when the survey comes through next year, we're going to see that percentage figure increase dramatically. It was interesting to see the sort of greatest impact or perceived impact of AI currently is really around optimizing sales processes and customer engagement.
Yeah.
However, I think what's clear is, and what's required is how AI can impact on deal velocity and forecasting. This sounds like initiatives that certainly the C-suite really do care about as well. So I guess this, as you say, has this. It's where you got to trial AI, you got to test it, you got to see how it works for you and where it can deliver the most amount of impact. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
This is like
and
any other technology breakthrough, right? I mean, the first movers are the ones that will understand better the ecosystem and the options and the possibility, and will be in a much better position to make a decision in the next, let's say, next wave, where you will be able to pick from the very beginning the right opportunity, right? So, yeah.
great. So I know we've covered quite a lot of ground.
Yeah,
As I said, we could have spent one episode discussing each of
each of the
those sort of,
topics.
um, yeah, each of the 4 points, priorities around aligning sales objectives with business goals, with the future proofing organization, like balancing short-term targets with long-term objectives, future proofing revenue strategies, etc., etc.
Yeah,
Going
sorry.
going back to where we spent quite a bit of time talking today around sales leadership as well, and why that's important for organizations culturally. I just wonder if you had any sort of key comments or key takeaways.
Well, I think is, if you build up the right culture and the right processes with the right team, it's always better to have a plan to nurture the team, to promote the team, to grow with the team. So it's better that people on this kind of a, well, it's not a pyramid, but let's say on this kind of organizations, it's better to hire from the ground, from the starting point, and then people starts to get into the culture. If you have a good career plan, education plan, etc. If you have this, people engage, and they get loyal to the company. But
Mhm.
this is very important. That's maybe my take, right? Because when you hire new leadership, it's true that maybe normally it's driven by some kind of change you want to provoke into the company or the department, right? So there are two situations. So you need to evaluate properly what you need, and in terms of that, then trigger the right actions.
Exactly, and I think it's really important for any leader to come with a vision. It's so important to have a vision to get your team behind you, and
Yeah,
to work towards. We quite often hear terms like the North Star.
yeah,
Working towards the North Star, and I think you can't do that if you're just focused on a sort of short-term wins. You need to have a longer-term strategic vision too.
yeah. It's the balance of both, indeed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're done. Will, thank you very much for the audience. We will come back next Thursday, same day, same time. Sorry, and yeah, and we are building up these AI episodes for you. So hopefully we can have them very soon with a great guest. So we will announce with enough time. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you,
Thank you.
Will.
Thanks. Bye.